I tried to be nice. I considered making this a chill video where I just vaguely talk about the situation. Some influencers are throwing parties, and that's bad because we're kind of in the middle of a pandemic. So maybe stop, you guys. Like, I don't want to name names, but you know, if you could just not endanger people, that would be great. Then it dawned on me. Why am I being so polite to people who can't even find enough compassion within themselves to not endanger the lives of everyone around them? I don't see a reason to. So that being said, I have a lot of names to name.
With funeral homes here in LA unable to accept more bodies, California's governor has ordered 88 refrigeration trucks to serve as makeshift morgues.
We will be cremating her. Normally we probably would have done a burial, but that would take maybe to the end of June.
So from that point up until he passed, I couldn't see him.
So, since this is kind of a heavy video, let me get the fun stuff out of the way first. I'm back. Honestly, I haven't really been gone. Like, I've been uploading. I put up 13 videos this month so far. They're all over on my other channel, which is also called dangelowallace for some reason. They go up Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. New videos 3 times a week. Actually, I put up like 24 videos last month if you count my VODs channel. Because yeah, I have a VODs channel now where I post my past live streams. I am actually a Twitch partner. I stream commentary and variety content 3 times a week on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So yes, I have new content going out at 2 p.m. Central Time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday every single week. My next stream is in 2 days from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time, and my next video is actually coming out tomorrow, I think. Wow. In other words, I'm here every single day at 2 p.m. now, except Sunday, which is fine because this Sunday you're getting this video. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at how influencers and celebrities are handling COVID-19 and why it makes me deeply angry. In part 1, I want to take a look at celebrities and the you know, other nonsense that they've been going through with regard to the pandemic. In part 2 of this video, I'm going to take a look at TikTok stars and the super spreader events. Oh, what are they calling them? The parties that they've been throwing recently. And in part 3, I think I'm just going to go after all of my fellow YouTubers who are pretending like COVID-19 doesn't exist. I'm honestly just tired of all of you. Like, I know that you're watching this video. That's good. That makes me happy. But you know what makes me even happier? Today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. Today's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. My reality, working from home, has become the norm for a lot more people recently, for obvious reasons. And the importance of keeping your computer secure was like here, and now it's here basically. ExpressVPN encrypts your data so hackers can't see it, your ISP can't see it, not even I can see it. And I see everything. ExpressVPN also masks your IP address, so you can be anywhere in the world. Unblocking content has to be my favorite feature. Watching streaming services without using ExpressVPN is like watching YouTube without subscribing to my channel. You're missing literally all of the good content. And speaking of YouTube, no more blocked videos. Just change your country with 1 click and access any content on the internet, no matter where you are. Seriously, you've got to check out Canadian Netflix. It's like the main thing I use it for. Best part, you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by going to expressvpn.com/D'Angelo. There's a reason it's TechRadar, CNET, The Verge's top-rated VPN. So follow the link in the description to get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free today. Now, without further ado, here's my video, Influencer-19. Celebrities have always been just kind of bad at remembering that they're like normal people, but during quarantine, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would put them at like a solid 19 for tone deafness. From Sam Smith posting a quarantine meltdown from their $13 million mansion, to Sia posting virus, but the vire is crossed out, so it just says us, and it's like, if I had a choice between knowing English and never having to read what you just said ever again, dos vidania. All celebrities are bad at this. It's like 1312 at this point. I mean, have you forgotten that Imagine cover? There's no heaven. Celebrities are out here trying to give me hope for COVID-19, but they all have such a tremendous lack of taste. I'm honestly more worried about them giving me COVID-19 itself. But instead of silly things like that, I kind of want to look at more extreme examples of celebrities' mishaps during COVID, because I feel like they represent kind of an interesting plot twist regarding our relationship with these celebrities. And who better to start with than the perfect modern day influencer, Kim Kardashian. She has enough real world fame to book an interview with anyone in the world, and she has enough social media clout to have an audience of millions that aspires to her lifestyle. She's no stranger to my channel, with one of my more iconic videos being me spiraling because of the size of her kids' playroom. Her and her entire like Kim Kardashian clan, oof, they've always perfectly walked the line between like unattainable wealth and oh snap, she just like me. But oh my gosh, they did not just blur that line during quarantine, they erased it. So Mrs. Kardashian West decided to flex her birthday party. I mean, having a party during a pandemic is, you see where I'm going with this. But you see, hers was okay because it was actually on a private island where she administered COVID tests to everyone beforehand. After 2 weeks of multiple health screens and asking everyone to quarantine, I surprised my closest inner circle with a trip where we could pretend things were normal for just a brief moment in time. She then goes on to describe her birthday party, which despite happening on an island, appears to have been drier than the Sahara Desert. She then ends it with, I realize that for most people, this is something that is so far out of reach right now. So in moments like these, I'm humbly reminded of how privileged my life is. Hashtag this is forced. So obviously, like, literally everyone hated that. She actually got ratioed by somebody telling her to read the room. She was kind of getting ratioed left and right. But what I found interesting was her getting ratioed by a normal person. Losing pay, dealing with unemployment, missing government checks, new childcare responsibilities. These things are more relatable than a private island trip. I mean, that's kind of obvious. Literally any normal person could have told you this, but I guess Kim K had to get the point some kind of way. Nobody was mad at her for being rich enough to live in an actual private fantasy world where COVID-19 doesn't exist. But I think everyone was kind of mad at her for sharing that and somehow thinking that was an appropriate choice. So next time they did it, the KarJenners decided not to share. See, Kendall Jenner threw a birthday party right after that with no masks, of course. And this one didn't get nearly as much backlash because this time they had a no social media rule. Take all the photos you want, but please do not post on social media of any kind. Spoiler alert, people took photos and posted them on social media of every kind, actually. Besides the Kardashians and the Jenners, there were so many people there. The Weeknd, Doja Cat, Justin Bieber, Hailey Bieber, Saweetie, Quavo, Jaden Smith, Winnie Harlow, all people that I am very disappointed in and expected better from. Except Justin Bieber. I don't expect anything from him, actually. And just so we're clear, they were all in violation of very clearly outlined Los Angeles guidelines that said gatherings of people from 3 or more different households should be held outside with face coverings and socially distanced. So my reaction would be remorse, I think, if I got caught lacking in this way because my friends just couldn't stay off of the gram. But for some reason, Kris Jenner went on the offense.
They're commenting and they're being critical. I can't control that.
She went on some radio show that I've never heard of before and explained that they were all tested beforehand, apparently. But like, the rapid tests that take 30 minutes to get the results.
And we make sure that everyone in our family and our closest friends are tested religiously. So, you know, we do what we can. We try to follow the rules.
I don't understand why you need to try to do the right thing when you can just simply do the right thing. She's acting like she didn't hold the party in spite of very clearly outlined guidelines.
You know what? As we live our lives trying to be just really good people.
Her excuses are honestly pathetic when there are people who can't even get clearance to hold funerals for their loved ones who have died from COVID-19 because of social distancing guidelines that they ignored so Kendall could have a party. Honestly, the entire KarJenner clan has historically been shown great rewards for showing off their just like insurmountable wealth gap. But the global pandemic has shifted this from something that they can profit off of further into something that they kind of have to hide if they want people to stop hating them. It's obvious that they're used to being praised for their bland but expensive life. I mean, we have Kim K's bizarre Q&A video with Vogue. There was Kylie Jenner's office tour in that office that it was like super apparent she never does any work in.
And then over here we have mine and my mom's closet. We have mine in my mom's office.
There's Kris Jenner's house tour with Architectural Digest. Okay, actually, I'm not gonna lie, that is, wow, that's a pretty house. I would live there. But my point is, before COVID, you know, this wealth gap basically meant, oh, Kim K can afford a Louis Vuitton bag and you can't. And people are open to that message for some reason. But now this wealth gap means Kim Kardashian can afford to keep her family safe from COVID-19 and live with the same comfort level that she had before. And you cannot. That's not like an aspirational thing to share with people anymore. It's now antagonistic. You would have to have like a severe lack of awareness to not realize that. But what do we expect from the Kardashian Jenners if not a severe lack of awareness? I mean, the only unscripted video Kim Kardashian has ever posted in her life is not even one I'm allowed to play on YouTube. Living your life above the rules because you can afford fancy testing sites and private islands and expensive giveaways is definitely a choice. But at the very least, it doesn't put anyone in harm's way, what with them all being tested and whatnot. So that's actually why I started them off as an example, because they're the least infuriating out of everyone we have to go through in this video. Lana Del Rey, indie singer, internet menace. She's been on a years-long mission to secure her spot as the queen of controversy, and boy did she make a lot of headway with this whole mask incident. Now, I've already gone over the situation in a video, one of the 12 videos I uploaded to my other channel this month, and that video was actually an update to a video I uploaded here about Lana Del Rey, which is kind of a lot, but her image sure has changed since that first video I put up about her. So this all started when Lana Del Rey decided to hold this impromptu book signing at Barnes & Noble, which is during the pandemic. It was for Violet Bent Backwards Over the Grass, which is the name of her latest poetry collection, apparently. It's obviously completely irresponsible to encourage people to gather in such a small space over something unnecessary. And with that unnecessary thing being selling more books, I actually find that despicable. I can somewhat understand celebrating your own birthday in spite of the lives of the elderly and others at risk around you, but celebrating your own product, then again, having listened to some of this poetry, I guess I can see why she would need to do any and everything to sell more copies of this.
People think that I'm rich, and I am, but not how they think.
So that in and of itself is like grating, but where it gets worse is that she was not social distancing. She was taking photos with fans all up in their face, which I wouldn't even want, even if like I was hanging out with a famous person. The IG pic will still work if you're here and I'm here. You don't need to. Okay, anyway, that's not what this is about. Actually, it's exactly what this is about, because you should be over here if you could potentially give me COVID-19. And yeah, she potentially gave all of them COVID-19. What with the masks she was wearing? I mean, thankfully, I didn't hear any reports of anybody coming down after that. But this is not even really a mask. It's a decoration. I feel like most normal people know this, but like masks are designed to stop droplets from exiting your mouth. That thing she had on her face wouldn't even stop a loogie from exiting her mouth. But I guess she just wanted to make a statement, which is that nothing comes between Lana Del Rey and the hot air she's constantly spewing. Not even a COVID-safe mask, apparently. So she was obviously being dragged over the coals on the internet, as you probably should for doing something this egregiously stupid. But for some reason, she thought, what if I just didn't respond to any of it? So a month later, this student newspaper, the Michigan Daily, did a bit of a retrospective. Lana Del Rey wore a mesh mask. What now? In it, they give a history of Lana Del Rey's previous controversies, but what is even more interesting in my opinion is they also give a very unique insight into how Lana Del Rey is falling out of favor with her fans specifically. Mask etiquette has become synonymous with compassion, intelligence, and human decency. Del Rey's fashion choice feels like a slap in the face for those who have been intimately hurt by COVID-19 and for those who wear their masks without issue. Celebrity status does not exclude Lana Del Rey from responsibility. That is very diplomatically worded and poignant, but it also did still manage to call her uncaring, unintelligent, and indecent, which is like, that was 10 out of 10. That was a good paragraph. So Lana Del Rey finally responds. Not sure why student paper of all things got under her news more than the actual mainstream media calling her out, but hey, who knows what goes on in the mind of Lana Del Rey? Literally everyone, because her entire career is like oversharing. The mask had plastic on the inside. They're commonly sewn in by stylists these days. I'm lucky enough to have a team of people who can do that. Oh my gosh, good for you. When she was called out in that post by people for not responding for like, I think it was 6 weeks almost. She claimed that she was simply too busy making music and donating money to people in order to respond for a month and a half. If it honestly takes her that long to write 2 tweets, then I guess I finally understand why she never drops an album on time. But somehow her apology actually worked on people, despite it being, to me at least, blaringly obvious that she lied, right? Like, you didn't believe that her mask had plastic, did you? Anybody with eyes can see that this has no plastic. There's no fog. Okay, when she pulls the mask down and it bunches up, it's clearly only a mesh material. Even when she's speaking, there's just like no muffling.
I'm doing a little book signing and we are at the Barnes & Noble in the Grove.
Oh look, a mask that matches my outfit, but still technically COVID safe. That's crazy. But notice how I sound like I'm actually wearing a mask? That's kind of what happens when you wear a mask versus an accessory. Now, last time Lana Del Rey experienced this much backlash, her fans were pretty quick to jump to her defense. I mean, even in my own comment section, it was just full of people who disagreed with me, which was fair, of course. But it's like, because Lana Del Rey is so personal and all of her music connects with her fans so hard, they are predisposed to defending her against any and everything. It turns out COVID-19 is too serious of an issue for that to work this time. Like that article pointed out, celebrity status does not exclude Lana Del Rey from the responsibility, especially since this is a responsibility to do simple things that stop people from dying. If your poetry book is somehow more important to you than that, you need help. So, you know, holding a small gathering for the sole purpose of power tripping over your fans while desperately trying to push your poetry book into their hands. Oh my gosh, that rhymed. Fans, hands. Lana Del Rey canceled by my poetry book. This is a joke. Lana Del Rey is not canceled because rich people don't go away no matter how many teenagers on the internet tweet at them. Fun fact. But yes, holding this event was disturbing. But as much as I hate to say it, I think that's like the smallest gathering that I'm mentioning in this entire video. The music industry, it's a $1 billion business. Its stars are larger than life, and it brings us all together, which is bad, unironically, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. So maybe we can just skip that part. But I guess the music industry hasn't figured that out yet. This is not to label everyone like this. There have been a lot of fantastic concerts for people being COVID safe, like Billie Eilish, BTS, tennis. There's been entire award shows held virtually to minimize risk, but also still celebrate emptiness like they always do, even in person. But then there's been a lot of garbage, like what I'm about to go over right now. So the Chainsmokers, everyone's favorite EDM band, known for their bangers like Closer, and that other song they released that sounds exactly like Closer, and that other song they released that sounds exactly like Closer, and not to forget their smash breakout summer hit, that one other song that also sounds exactly like Closer. They decided to headline this charity event, which is like usually good. It was held in the affluent Hamptons area. Okay, tickets cost anywhere from $1,000 to $25,000 for some reason. Imagine paying $25,000 just to hear someone press play and then Closer part 25 through 30 plays. In other words, it was a bunch of rich people for once giving their money to someone who could actually use it, like the services that they were donating to. And according to Billboard, this event was going to follow guidelines. It was going to be fine. They had to make all these promises to get clearance in the first place, like that it was going to be masks only and people were going to be separated into various areas, etc. And so they did promise that legally to the city. There's like proof of it.
There are many safety protocols in here, including that guests had to stay in a 20 by 15 space.
So after a few hours of everyone following the rules, I guess the event organizers were like, what if we didn't? They allowed people to congregate at the front of the stage, which was not at all previously agreed upon. And there was just no social distancing. It was basically a mosh pit. So the governor responded to this and called out the event organizers like, hey, that wasn't the thing that you said you were going to do.
I don't know how they approved that permit. The promoters are going to have a problem.
And they responded and said, oh yeah, that last part where everyone was in that mosh pit, they were actually socially distanced and there were no groups there bigger than 10. And it's like, why this is the second time people just violate these rules and then somehow think, you know what, maybe it's just stupidity. Maybe if you're dumb enough to violate COVID safety guidelines, then you're dumb enough to think anyone's going to believe you when you lie about it after the fact. That's what I choose to believe, since I guess we just pick and choose information. Like, instead of lying, just admit that you don't care whether or not people die. Save yourself the trouble. So the Department of Health actually launched an investigation into this incident because, oh my gosh, there were so many people there. And the conclusion of that, which I have mixed feelings about, they were fined $20,000 by New York. I think that's an insanely light fine, especially considering the fact that some of the tickets sold for more than $20,000. So like literally one person could have covered that. They lost nothing. Anyway, since we're in this little musician section, I would love to call out Rita Ora for being the worst person apparently. Photographs came out showing Rita Ora celebrating her 30th birthday party with a group of about 30 people. No masks, all within one restaurant. This happened in West London, and people were understandably very upset because that was in direct violation of guidelines set up by West London to prevent people from spreading COVID to everybody in West London. So she was caught, obviously, that was not something she posted to her story, and she started getting called out by everyone from Twitter to law enforcement. So she decided to post an apology to Instagram, in which she apologizes for her small gathering of 30 people, claims it was a spur-of-the-moment decision, and says, "I feel particularly embarrassed knowing firsthand how hard people have worked to combat this terrible illness and being fully aware of the sacrifices that people and businesses have made to keep us all safe." So that in and of itself is like, ugh. But then it somehow gets worse because it turned out she did this after having just flown in from Egypt, where she was doing some sort of private show. In other words, according to the government, she should have been self-isolating because she was just in a foreign country. But no, she literally went straight to this party with 30 people. So, she had to put out another apology. "I should have followed government advice and isolated myself for the required period. As you know, I didn't follow government advice, and for that, I apologized earlier this week. I apologize again." At what point does it just not get embarrassing? Like, please, I haven't heard any of her songs trending in the past, I couldn't tell you years, but she's trending like twice within the span of a few weeks for breaking COVID safety guidelines. And then she did it again, and I'm not kidding. It turns out when the police found her in that party with the 30 people, they launched an investigation. And yes, it was the police who found her. They're the ones who had to break the incident up because apparently, and allegedly, Rita Ora paid the restaurant owner off to let her and her friends violate those guidelines. They switched off the security cameras and they boarded up the windows in order to prevent people from catching her. According to the police reporting this to a committee, the restaurant owner himself testified that he accepted this money. And now, magically, Rita Ora didn't have any apologies or statements to offer when she was contacted about this. So yeah, no, that's why I'm saying it's not like she did one thing and it was like, oh, she should have thought about that harder. She was like, today I wake up and I choose COVID. You know, prior to COVID-19, it was easier for musicians and all kinds of celebrities to convince us that they had some sort of special rights afforded to them by being good at music. But now it's clear that their audiences want to see them following the exact same rules as everyone else. I actually still find it fascinating in a way though to see these musicians lose their artificial exclusivity, because this ability to build up rarity has been a driving force behind a lot of their success stories. People realizing, oh wow, maybe I don't have to spend like $25,000 on a ticket because I can just watch this online. Billie Eilish did it. People are realizing, oh wow, maybe a bunch of rich people going to a party do have to follow the same rules as all the rest of us because those rules are designed to stop people from dying. Their untouchable status has been stripped away, and it honestly just leaves them looking desperate and dishonest when they try to somehow muster it up to get away with things nowadays. And Rita Ora and the Chainsmokers are just two people who got caught doing this. There's no telling how many people are still doing this and we just never hear about it. I honestly don't care how much I like your music. I don't care how talented you are. It's never going to be enough to excuse your decision to endanger people using your fame and influence to get away with it. So like, imagine doing that and not being talented. Like, I think it's time to abolish the Chainsmokers. All in all, celebrities are getting their worst fears confirmed, which is that, you know, they're not special, they're just rich, and no amount of money will ever change that for them. And that probably is terrifying for them in a way, but honestly, I wouldn't know because I, of course, am special. Celebrities are no longer above the law, which means nothing because they have enough money to where breaking the law is not illegal, it's just inconvenient. But alas, we don't have time to get into that in this video. So I've talked about how, you know, actually famous people are handling COVID-19. So we're going to bring this down to my circle. Internet famous people. Okay, now that we're here, we're going to go down like 7 more circles to the bottom and talk about TikTok famous people. There's 9 circles here if you haven't done the math. Now, before I get into this TikTok discussion, there's one thing I want you to remember. These people are adults. I know it's hard to tell with all the juvenile dances, the high school drama, the elementary school haircuts, but most of these people are in their 20s. Addison Rae, Blake Gray, Lorray. What is with all these Rays? Is that like a requirement to being popular on TikTok? Too bad Billy Ray Cyrus was born in 1961 instead of 2001. He could have been popular. Anyway, my point is these people pay taxes. They're allowed to vote. Oh my God, they're allowed to vote. They would get drafted if there was a war. Okay, heck, half of them are already desperately trying to hide their receding hairlines. So don't think of the actions I'm about to describe as the actions of dumb kids on TikTok. Think about it for what it really is. Unhinged adults with no capacity for empathy and no care for human life. And honestly, that terrifies me because their entire audience is just children. The Hype House. Bunch of influencers, millions of followers among them, and not a drop of talent. Basically, imagine taking a boy band, okay, but some of them are girls, and none of them sing, or can sing. Yeah, that's the Hype House. They're only popular because enough children happened to like their TikToks that TikTok started promoting them, and then now they're rich and they won't go away. Infinite net worth, zero contribution to society. So with that being said, I guess I shouldn't really be surprised at what I'm about to tell you. But unlike the traditional celebrities we talked about in part 1, these people don't even try to hide what they're doing. So Influencer Collective, the Hype House, is one of many TikTok hubs that have thrown one of these massive influencer parties. This one was for the TikTok/YouTuber person, Lorray. He turned 22 and had his party at the Hype House mansion. And just so we're clear, this surprise party they threw for him, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm gonna hang out as friends. They clearly paid somebody to host this event, which is an insane thing to do during a pandemic. So because of Lorray's follower count, a bunch of other influencers attended as well. And just so we're clear, they're all pathetic. This includes James Charles, Nikita Dragon. I saw a whole lot of influencers and 0 masks. So basically, this was so egregious that everyone got called out by Tyler Oakley of all people. Shout out Tyler Oakley, I guess. If your favorite influencers are at huge house parties during a pandemic and are dumb enough to post it on social media, they are bad influences. Unfollow them. All facts, no cap on God, he don't miss for real. He then went on to actually tag Lorray and several of the other influencers there, which is very chaotic and definitely an inspiration for this video. Hi Lorray, hi James, how are you doing? So Lorray offered this weak apology. It's a whole lot of words to avoid saying one word, sorry. You know, this whole idea of, okay, now that you've brought it to my attention, I'll take it seriously, is so warped. Do you know why? Because the people whose family members are dying from COVID-19, they never had the option to not take it seriously. It starts off as a matter of life or death for a lot of people. So the fact that you can finally decide to take it seriously because people are calling you out is disgusting. James Charles put out an even weaker apology. All he could muster up were white words on a black screen shoved like towards the latter part of a random video that mentions nothing about this controversy. I want to encourage you guys to be smarter than I was before. Wait, that wasn't a good James. And I want to encourage you guys to be smarter than I was before. Much like the I'll take it seriously comment, this is a non-response. Like, you didn't do this because you were dumb. You did it because you didn't care whether or not you would get COVID and spread it to other people. I mean, I'm not saying James Charles isn't dumb for that. He is, definitely. At least he recognized that part. But my point is, stupidity is just the side effect here of a deep and disturbing lack of empathy. And that's not the only party like this. Like I said, there's a bunch. Tana Mojo and Erica Costello decided to go to a party hosted by Jake Paul, in which they posted this lovely clip. We didn't really need the verbal confirmation that neither of these women care about anyone other than themselves. We could just tell by the fact that you were there in the first place. Tana posted this apology, if that's what you want to call it. I'm going to apologize for real later is possibly the worst take I've heard from Tana Mojo, and that's saying a lot because she has a database of those that just stretches back for years. Tana Mojo is bad Takeopedia at this point, and she's still went lower than her low. Now, this is all like kind of really serious, not just because it's like, oh, they decided to have fun instead of be safe. I kind of wouldn't care if you're just endangering yourself for some reason. This is a big deal because these people are turning Los Angeles into a COVID hotspot. Elijah Daniel, who's also part of that scene, has alleged that people are actually getting COVID-19, which makes sense based off of the video footage, but that they're just not saying anything to their followers, or even more importantly, to each other. And if that's not bad enough, the Hype House is basically like a traveling circus. Nylea Devora, James Charles, Nikita Dragon, these are all people that Hype House or Hype House members are collaborating with after the fact, despite their utter lack of COVID accountability. And people like Nikita Dragon, who is also at that party, are making these idiotic decisions because they know there's nothing really to lose if someone else gets COVID because of this, and there's everything to gain, what with the views that the Hype House brings. Now, as bad as all of that is, I actually find what they're doing to be worse than what the traditional celebrities I mentioned in part 1 are doing. And that's because, like I said, the Hype House's audience is only children. There's nobody there but kids. And even though there's a couple of kids in the Hype House, the majority of people there are over the age of 18. So this is a group of adults who is modeling behavior to what they understand completely is a group of children. And this behavior is what gets people killed. Anytime the Hype House gets called out, or any of these TikTok stars get called out for their behavior, you can just find a bunch of children in the replies like, oh, I don't think it's that big of a deal, leave them alone. And it's twisted. It's kind of sick in a way. Like, fun fact, Larray is not worth it. Just download iMovie and slap a bunch of effects on, and you can easily be him yourself. And what's worse is the Hype House effortlessly evades all consequences for their actions. Like, nothing happens to these people. But then again, that's actually the least surprising part out of all of this, because I am literally describing a group of young, rich people in Los Angeles. Never mind, why would anything happen? But with that being said, other TikTok houses actually are getting in trouble with their city government. So Sway House is literally the exact same thing as the Hype House, but they're actually talented. Just kidding. You didn't think that was going to be true, did you? They're the exact same thing as the Hype House, but worse. It's a TikTok collective of frat boys is the best way I can describe it, even though I'm not sure if any of them actually go to college. I mean, a group of mostly men just building up this giant audience of mostly young people by uploading weirdly sexual content is a lot in and of itself. But much like a frat house, Sway House seems to have an obsession with pushing the rules as far as possible, if not just breaking them. And usually that's not like the biggest deal in the entire world, but seeing as the rules here are the ones stopping people from spreading COVID and turning everything into a COVID hotspot, it's kind of a big deal. Bryce Hall's 21st birthday party, I think, is one of the biggest gatherings I've mentioned so far in this entire video. Allegedly, there were 100 people there. They were all packed into his Hollywood Hills mansion, the Sway House. In some footage, it actually looks like a mosh pit. Now, this party was broken up by police officers, but not before people got photos, and it turns out there were a bunch of these frat boy-esque people in attendance. The NELK boys, who I'm going to be talking about later, Josh Richards, FaZe Banks of all people, like literally, what do you gain from that? So after that, the mayor shut down Bryce Hall's power at his mansion. See, this was part of a sweeping effort to crack down on these parties. And all Bryce Hall did was make jokes about it. He posted tweets and TikToks mocking the situation. He went on Jeff Wittick's YouTube channel and was just completely unremorseful about the entire thing.
You're basically like a TikToker. You're profiting off of a pandemic. You selling masks too?
He was clearly sending a message that these consequences don't affect him. So I guess the government kind of realized that, so instead they just charged him criminally, which go off. Both he and Blake Gray, aka TikTok person number 557, they're all indistinguishable. They got charged for holding these kinds of parties, and then the attorney of Los Angeles held a press conference about it, condemning their actions.
There are potential super spreader events for COVID-19. Today, given that information, I'm making an announcement about a series of prosecutions tied to party houses. They
face up to a year in jail, as well as a $2,000 fine, which $2,000? What is with these tiny fines? Okay, let me ask you this. Why not charge a $20,000 fine so that you can actually cover the costs of the police officers that you had to send over there, so they were at a mansion talking to rich kids instead of being able to help people who actually need it? You could cover the cost of the paperwork that you had to file in order to bring these charges up in the first place. You know, why not fine them $200,000? Why not make it so that this decision actually financially affects them, which is usually the point of fines, which are usually levied against parties or organizations that can only be affected by money because of how rich they are. Or, you know what? You know, you don't have to listen to me. You know, don't fine them $20K. Don't fine them $200K. Fine them $2 million each. Bankrupt them. Put them out of business. Deplatform them and force them to operate in the same place as the rest of us, aka the people that they're endangering by doing these actions in the first place. Like, actually take them out financially. That would I would love that. See, they live in a mansion, yeah, sure, but their entire life is a rental. So if they got hit with a fine that big, they would not be able to keep living that lifestyle. But it's almost like these ramifications aren't really about teaching anyone a lesson. They're just like, oh, we did something, leave us alone now. It's pathetic. So fun fact, I was just thinking, like, only we, the non-celebrities, were the ones mad about this. But Ariana Grande actually called out these TikTokers indirectly.
Did we really all need to go to Saddle Ranch that badly that, like, we couldn't have waited for the deathly pandemic to pass? Like, yeah. We all really needed to put on our cowgirl boots and ride a mechanical bull that bad.
It is
we all needed that Instagram post that badly.
And, you know, some of them responded kind of emptily, like, oh yeah, you know, she's fair, whatever, blah blah blah. But for some reason, Bryce Hall actually retaliated.
She's not wrong, but, like, unnecessary.
Yeah.
Necessary to call out a specific group, especially when there's other people doing it. Because she knew that TikTokers have, like, a high audience. She knew a lot of people would agree because there's a lot of people that hate TikTokers, especially. Yeah, I mean, it was obviously like a marketing move, and good for her, but, like, she's not wrong.
Imagine thinking Ariana Grande needs clout from you, Bryce Hall, a TikTok person. I don't know why anyone over 1 million followers on TikTok pretends like their 1 million followers are anything other than 1 million children. Any brand deal Bryce Hall has ever gotten in his life is because the brand wants Bryce to convince his fans, to convince their parents to make a purchase. Bryce Hall is not actually famous. He's not worth anything outside of the internet, and he never will be because he has no talent. So I don't think Ariana Grande really needs help in that area, but that's just my assessment. The morality of putting people in danger of catching COVID-19 is one thing, but seeing people actually violate clearly organized guidelines or even laws and then getting criminally charged for doing so is insane. It's absurd that these are the lengths people are going to spread COVID. It's not like influencers being mean to each other or tweets or drama. These are the criminals. They were charged criminally. And even though they're not violent criminals, it's clear that they are doing far more harm than even somebody could with a weapon. So yeah, of course, I'm glad that the government is cracking down on this kind of behavior. Of course, I don't think they're cracking down hard enough. I'm certainly no, like, law and order stan, but I do believe in the power of money. Bankrupt them. If TikTok is not going to deplatform them, do it yourself. But unfortunately, no amount of action taken after the fact undoes the problem. These parties happened. COVID was definitely spread already. These kids are already thinking, oh wow, it must not be that big of a deal. I mean, who is a child going to listen to? Bryce Hall or Dr. Fauci? Do not answer this question. It hurts, I know. The impact of spreading COVID to each other is one thing, but it's impossible to measure the impact they're having on spreading the idea that COVID-19 isn't real among children. And it's terrifying. Charli D'Amelio. She is the most popular girl on TikTok, and I truly don't consider it an exaggeration to say she's the most popular girl on the internet. Unlike the men and women I've discussed so far, Charli D'Amelio is a child. She's still just a kid, which makes her internet fame even more remarkable. So I am not going to blame a 16-year-old who's getting dragged around by her family to things that are completely irresponsible during a pandemic. I'm going to blame her family. I'm here to blame her parents and all of the adults involved for not just taking a vacation to the Bahamas because posting TikToks is so difficult for them. No, I'm not kidding. I'll get to that in a second. But also their response to the situation, which is just so emblematic of how frivolously they treat all of this. So yes, Charli D'Amelio's parents and her friend group decided to take a trip to the Bahamas, traveling from the actual COVID capital of the world, Los Angeles, to the Bahamas, which is relatively fine. So that's a lot. But if that's not bad enough, they were actually trying to hide the incident this entire time. I mean, it's like understandable why, but that is so shady. However, that didn't stop anybody from finding out, because fans actually bumped into the D'Amelios and their friend group in the Bahamas and started posting pictures and TikToks with them. Besides that, people started looking around at the rest of Charli's group, seeing travel photos, and they quickly pieced 2 and 2 together. These people left the United States and went on vacation in the islands. Now, this was all just doubly ridiculous because of how Charli was literally just lecturing people about not doing this exact sort of thing.
Also, if you're using this time to hang out with your friends since you don't have school, please, like, I'm asking you, like, please stop being so inconsiderate to others, because you may think, like, oh, this isn't going to affect me, like, there's no, like, it's not that bad, like, whatever. You're thinking, like, oh, you're a teenager, you're immune. Like, you are putting other people at risk to get hurt and to be like in pain.
So once they were finally caught, the adults involved went on a paparazzi tour. Her dad, Mark D'Amelio, stood up for Charli, which, okay, great. But he also didn't take responsibility.
First of all, to blame Charli, like, it was a family vacation. Yeah. She's 16, so she has no say. Yes. In where we're going, so we could put it on me.
But if he's also acknowledging that she had no say in it, then how does he not see how wrong it is to take a child who can't really object to this and place them under this much scrutiny for your dumb decision?
But we did what we had to do, and you know, we went away. So
I'm sorry, a vacation is the last thing anyone has to do right now. And if you somehow think that you are entitled to a vacation, I guess instead of going to her head, the money Charli made just went to her parents' head, which is crazy, despite the fact that it's not even theirs.
Corona is real, and people have to take it seriously. Yes. And you know, we left a hotbed and went to a place where there was very little corona, but we do take it seriously, and we want to protect other people.
A trip to the Bahamas is not someone taking it seriously. Like, you can say whatever you want, but what you did is not going to change. His words are so empty at this point, he may as well be lip syncing like Charli does in all of her TikToks. So Noah Beck, who fun fact, Noah Beck, not Blake Gray or Bryce Hall. These are all different people. No, I don't understand how this works either, but he was one of the many people who decided to tag along with Charli's parents for that trip, and he reiterated Mark's bizarre talking points that this vacation was somehow necessary.
I think, especially like in the business that we're in, I think that it's like you need some time to kind of disconnect for a little, you know? Yeah.
This business being convincing millions of small girls to follow you because you wear short shorts and gyrate. To quote one of the world's most prominent philosophers, that must be super freaking hard for you. Also, can paparazzi please stop giving attention to these people? I mean, half of the time these TikTok stars call the paparazzi on themselves because, like I pointed out, they are indistinguishable from each other and nobody would recognize them on the street. But outside of that, let's stop pretending like these people are cogent enough to be interesting in an impromptu interview. Honestly, what I think grates on my nerves about all of this is the entitlement of these TikTok stars to think that their vacation is more important than the safety of the lives of those around them. It's in such stark contrast to people who are trying to decide whether or not they'll travel to visit their loved ones or travel to attend their funerals of their loved ones, and they can't even do that. The implication that they had to go away is insane. There are people who have to work. There are people who have to care for their sick and dying relatives. There are people who have to find some sort of child care so that they can work away from home, and they can't because of this pandemic. They can't because they are following the same rules that you are bending or skirting around. Charli's parents should be ashamed of themselves, along with Noah Beck and all the other influencers who came along on that trip. Not just for being like irresponsible, but you should also be ashamed of yourself for being delusional and thinking that you somehow work hard enough to warrant a trip to the Bahamas. And they should really be ashamed for setting Charli up for this much social media backlash in something that she, and I'm directly quoting her father, had no say in. So as far as the TikTok section of this video, Like I said, I'm disappointed in the celebrities, but I'm much more wary of these TikTok stars and their insane efforts and accomplishments in normalizing COVID unsafety in the minds of an untold number of millions of children. There needs to be actions taken against these people in some way, shape, or form. Oh, for part 3. Perhaps the one you've been waiting for. I have zero tolerance policy for celebrities violating these COVID-19 guidelines, and I have even less tolerance than that for the TikTok stars. YouTube, I am incensed. I am livid, to say the least. And that is because I am inside the circle this time. I know exactly how much money these people are making. I know exactly why they're making the decision to collaborate and travel instead of just stay home like everyone else is trying to. I know why they're doing it. It's for views. There is no thought process, not even self-preservation. There is only views. A single-celled organism that feeds off of clout would make the same decision that these YouTubers are making. But more than anything, I think YouTubers' reaction to all of this has just shown how fake all of them are. Well, a lot of them are. Let me backtrack. I mean, of course, I'm not fake. Sorry, I was just making sure my hair was literally perfectly placed. There are a lot of YouTube channels. I would venture to say the majority of YouTube channels are running just fine under COVID-19. Even big ones with a lot of people, and that surprised me. Like the H3 podcast, I was just on their podcast. Not a single COVID-19 suggestion was violated. I was safe, they were safe. You can still get views without potentially killing everyone in your city. There's a lot of beautiful content from dedicated people on this website who are still pushing it despite these new guidelines, which, if I'm being honest, are nothing more than inconveniences if your job was already sitting at home anyway. But as for the people valuing views over human life, they've built their entire platform off of nothing, no substance. Dumb tubers. There's a lot of people I would put under this category, but the NELK boys and Jake Paul have to be like tied for number 1. They make content embracing their own stupidity and embraced by people who are looking for bottom of the barrel videos to watch. Like, nobody thinks they're actually talented, funny, or interesting. Sometimes people just want to turn their brain off and watch dumb people do dumb things. And that is why they have followers and views. They provide the dumb, even when they're not trying to. So maybe they are naturally talented at something. Whereas most of their content is relatively harmless, if not grating. Some of them have decided that COVID-19 isn't a warning to slow down, it is an opportunity to crank things up even higher. And seeing as that involves endangering an untold number of people, I find that unacceptable. Now, as far as the NELK boys, this YouTuber collective has always just kind of built their platform off of being obnoxious and harassing other people. But the way they have adapted their content strategy to account for COVID, holy crap. They did a live merch drop in front of a Jersey Shore house where reportedly 1,000 people attended. None of them were wearing masks. So the police literally had to break this up. And I am really tired of bringing up the fact that police had to show up to tell rich people to stop being bad. Even though arrests were made, the NELK boys somehow just effortlessly escaped all of this and moved on to their next egregious showing. The government made a statement about it, and I have to say, the phrase knucklehead behavior.
On Monday night, we saw perhaps our most extreme, which is saying something, by the way, an egregious display of knucklehead behavior in Seaside Heights.
I vibe with what this man is saying. All facts, no cap on God. He don't miss for real, for real. The problem is, the NELK boys, despite escaping that, they just do this over and over again.
Let's go!
Yeah, fun fact, gatherings of over 10 people are prohibited there. I honestly find what they're doing to be more insidious than the other influencers I mentioned. Instead of inviting over a bunch of their fellow influencer friends, they are using their platform to invite over hundreds, if not over 1,000 of their actual fans for nothing other than these weird power trippy moments. Like, they are on some sort of deranged tour right now during a pandemic. Now, it got completely out of hand when the NELK boys decided to stage a protest for people to open their gyms back up. This was hosted by Steve Will Do It, who is one of the NELK Boys members, and he posted it on his channel. Now, this was wrong on multiple levels. Obviously, what they are protesting for is insane and dangerous, but even worse, they kind of like fashioned it as like some sort of parody of a Black Lives Matter protest. Lat Lives Matter, Gym Lives Matter. It was a lot. So YouTube finally took action against this, disabling monetization entirely by dropping them from the partner program itself. They went ahead and backed up their decision with a statement explaining their reasoning. I'm glad they did this, and honestly, I don't even see this as off-platform behavior, seeing as these things they were doing were winding up in their YouTube videos. As for fellow dumb YouTuber Jake Paul, I briefly mentioned this first part towards the end of my video about Jake Paul that's on this channel, but he was hosting a music video shoot for his song Fresh Outta London, and in this shoot he decided to include maskless crowd scenes because what music video would be complete without them? He filmed these without clearance, obviously, because why would somebody clear this during the pandemic? And so the mayor of Calabasas came forward and said there would be a zero tolerance policy for this sort of behavior, in direct response to what Jake Paul did. Now, around all of this time with all these parties and whatnot, Jake Paul was involving his entire friend group, which is why it was no surprise that Tanner Fox, who runs in that circle, got COVID-19.
Okay. Yeah, so we were able to run the test today, and it was positive for COVID.
Oh my God. Okay.
First of all, can we just talk about how the cameraman is sitting like a couple feet away from somebody who just confirmed that they tested positive and is not wearing a mask? No wonder. Oh my gosh, bro. They probably all have COVID. They probably literally all have COVID-19. Everyone in this video I mentioned probably at some point has or passed on COVID-19 allegedly. The reason I bring this up, not because I feel sorry for Tanner Fox, is because Jake Paul says that he's not worried about it. And you can even hear a voice in the background saying, "We don't care."
Are you worried about it?
Not really. We don't care.
Okay, well, that's good, but I had to call you and just let you know.
So if that's not bad enough, besides the reaction from the government, besides the fact that his friends are getting COVID now, Jake Paul starts descending into COVID-19 conspiracy theories. He got confronted by the Daily Beast about his decisions to hold these parties and all of that nonsense. And Jake Paul says that COVID-19 is a hoax, specifically saying COVID cases are at less than 1% and I think the disease is a hoax. Then he went on to compare it to the flu. Now, obviously this is like unacceptable, so The Verge brought this up and Jake Paul actually clarified that he had been misquoted. He misquoted me, he took what I said out of context. It's quite upsetting actually that someone with that sort of power can just publish something that's false. There's only one tiny problem though. It was recorded in audio format.
COVID case deaths are at less than 1%, and I think the disease is a hoax.
You think the disease is a hoax? I mean, it's killed about 260,000 people so far this year.
Yeah, and so is the flu.
Shortly thereafter, he was caught on a yacht party passing around this hookah. In other words, like passing around the corona. He really just seems to be like on the edge. Jake Paul is headed somewhere very quickly and I don't know where it is, but he deserves whatever is coming to him. Like, I'm fine with Jake Paul getting COVID-19 and surviving. I'm perfectly okay with everyone in this video I mentioned who's being unsafe catching COVID-19 and surviving. The problem lies when we start looking at how they are spreading it to everyone in their life. And it's not like this is some sort of conspiracy. It's not like this is a possibility. You can just look at Los Angeles's COVID cases and see the results of their actions. Like, the behavior of Jake Paul and the NELK Boys represents a different kind of approach to COVID than the other people I've discussed so far. Instead of pretending to be remorseful when they're caught and they're trying to hide everything, they just decide, what if I explicitly act like COVID isn't real? At this point, the anti-intellectualism is just a choice to be stupid. They're choosing to be stupid. And seeing the sheer size of the NELK Boys gatherings and the fact that Jake Paul already has people in his crew coming down with COVID, that's clearly the most dangerous approach out of all of them. Like, Jake Paul and the NELK Boys are just, it's very rare that they have no positive qualities to say about somebody. You don't have any redeeming qualities as a human being if you can laugh off something that gets people killed. If you can spread misinformation that gets people killed. If you can encourage people to protest for something that could potentially get more people killed. Infuriating isn't even strong enough of a word to describe how I feel about that. David Dobrik and the Vlog Squad. They used to be inseparable, and at the height of their popularity, they were inseparable from the trending tab. David Dobrik doesn't upload here currently, but it's not a stretch to say that he was the most popular vlogger. The Vlog Squad is the group of people that David would feature in his vlogging content, and they all have social media profiles and channels of their own. They're basically like an influencer super group, which was fantastic right up until the pandemic, when large groups of people should not be gallivanting around town. But why would that stop them? Now, it kind of did stop David Dobrik, actually. Like, David Dobrik literally stopped uploading content to YouTube. Many people assumed it was for social distancing, but honestly, he was just posting a bunch of stuff on TikTok, so clearly nothing stopped him from creating content. But from what I understand, David Dobrik's TikTok presence does involve him staying home. I haven't seen him in any giant gatherings. He hasn't posted any sort of giant David Dobrik style collaboration. I mean, either he's actually socially distancing or he's just really good at running a social media presence that makes it seem like he is, and I'll take that. I haven't seen him running around without a mask. Nobody's caught him at any of these influencer parties, to my understanding. I mean, he even talked to Nickelodeon about the importance of staying home.
Hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy and staying inside. I know it sucks, but it's kind of the most important thing we could be doing right now.
The few TikToks I saw where he was out, he was socially distancing. Like, just so we're clear, I'm not necessarily proud of David Dobrik for doing the bare minimum to prevent the elderly and otherwise at risk from being killed from COVID-19, but I appreciate that he's doing it. You feel me? Meanwhile, the rest of his squad, though, they're just acting like this pandemic doesn't exist. I do not know what is wrong with these people. Jason Nash just posts video after video of them running around in groups, hanging out at each other's houses, etc. People call them out again and again and again, and nothing happens. It's never actually acknowledged. I think what really showed me that these people do not care was the fact that they threw a party at David Dobrik's house. David didn't appear to be there. I don't think anybody saw him there or had footage of that. So it's clear that the Vlog Squad, at least, despite their squeaky clean image, has the exact same attitude as everyone else I've mentioned in this video so far, which is one of rules for thee, but not for me. And also, I don't care if you literally die. No wonder Los Angeles is like a COVID hotspot. It's because of the Vlog Squad and everyone else I've mentioned. Congratulations, you are COVID-19. It's honestly, like, collaborations, especially those of the Vlog Squad-ish nature, were previously thought of as like wholesome and organic. But this pandemic has really just shown how money motivated they are. I mean, David's fine. His TikTok is actually thriving. He has enough clout that nothing's going to happen to him if he kind of kicks his friends out of his content, which he did. But the Vlog Squad, if they're trying to maintain their current level of money, basically, they have to continue collaborating with each other because they, especially Jason Nash, don't have enough followers or views on their own. And it's like, why not just settle for less right now and be like the untold number of people who have had to make sacrifices in, if not just their comfort, their actual finances in order to continue to stay afloat. Jason Nash and the Vlog Squad making less money isn't even going to stop them from still being rich. So if people who are closer to the poverty line than they are to Jason Nash can do it, why can't they? The Vlog Squad represents possibly one of my biggest pet peeves in all of this, which is people who claim like they're in a quarantine group. Sure, I'm always hanging out with my friends and we're constantly going to each other's houses, but we're all quarantining together. And it's like, with that being said, theoretically, I could claim to be in a quarantine group with anybody on YouTube. When I show up in the next Mr. Beast video, just know, even though I flew out from Texas to go see him, he's part of my quarantine group and we've just been quarantining together. It's frustrating seeing people who don't even need to make as much money as they are to survive choose that money just so that they can support their lavish lifestyle, while other people are having to figure out where they're going to find rent. The last person I have here makes me the angriest, and that's saying a lot because everyone in this video has made me see varying shades of red. Dr. Mike, well known on YouTube for not just being a popular channel, but an actual medical doctor. Like, is he an influencer? Sure, but he also took the Hippocratic Oath. He literally vowed to do no harm. Like, at the very least, the other people I mentioned in this video are like idiots with no qualifications to do anything in life other than record 15-second clips of themselves. But this is a licensed medical professional, and it turns out he took more of a hypocritical oath. Dr. Mike had put out multiple videos, I would even say video after video, about COVID-19 and being safe and doing things the right way. Doctor fact checks media on coronavirus. Dr. Mike day in the life COVID-19. Dr. Mike interviews Dr. Fauci on COVID-19. Yes, this is real. He actually talked to Dr. Fauci.
Myself, as someone who's on the front lines as a family medicine doctor, what can we do?
He wasn't just telling people to be safe. He was literally the poster boy for handling COVID-19 the right way on YouTube. He was just so gosh darn ready for COVID. But it turns out by ready for COVID, I guess he meant ready to spread it to everyone, because he was caught on this bizarre yacht party. And what is it with people in yachts, by the way? For his birthday party in Miami. He was in group photos right up on everyone with no mask. He was not just social distancing. He was actually like touching the people there. For the 0.2 seconds that he had a mask on, it wasn't even on properly. He traveled to Miami, which was in the state of emergency because of COVID, by the way. So obviously, this caught people by surprise, and the criticism got to be way too much to ignore. He was getting called out by the mainstream media. He was getting called out by his own fans. It was like stranger than fiction and disturbing in its own right. So Dr. Mike shows up with a 4-minute apology video. He first claims that this was actually a surprise party thrown for him, and that's great, but if that's the case, why not just say, oh, thank you so much, and then socially distance and wear a mask?
When I went down to Miami, my friends surprised me with a private boat as a belated birthday present. And I was very grateful. I was excited. At the same time, I was a little cautious and nervous because we're in the midst of a pandemic.
In fact, he actually misuses CDC information to make an excuse for why he wasn't wearing a mask.
So I went on the CDC website and checked the guidance for wearing masks during water activities.
This was a guideline for what to do when swimming, not boating. A doctor purposely giving misleading information about COVID-19 to his audience as an excuse for why he wasn't being safe, by the way. That is legitimately appalling. He then goes on to lie about the boat capacity.
I checked the local boat capacity guidelines, so we were well below that.
I mean, he was obviously photographed with more than 8 people there. He does like this horrible risk assessment thing where he decides it's okay, actually.
I'm young. I don't have health problems. I live alone, so I don't put anyone else at risk. I'm going to be following the proper quarantine and testing protocols, returning back to New York. We're following all the testing, boat capacity, and travel guidelines. So I thought for me, this risk level was okay.
You can do literally everything he just said. You can be literally everything he is, and you can still get COVID-19 and die and or pass it to a loved one and they can die. That's the only thought process that should be going into unnecessary gatherings. He claims that he was only wrong because this made him seem phony, not necessarily wrong for the action.
Even considering following the rules as the guidelines that are set forth, it doesn't matter. I messed up. I really did. And I need to do better. The reason I'm saying this is because of the impact of my trip. The impact can harm the medical message that I've been delivering from the beginning of this pandemic. What I can say is that I'm going to strive to do better. I'm a human. I messed up here. It's true. I really did. This has been a mistake.
Being a human messing up is great. Same. But in the medical profession, typically that's disastrous. Also, he was definitely trying to hide the video. The man has 6.7 million subscribers, and he posted it on a channel with 75,000. And the likes were disabled. Dr. Mike is trash. He represents one of the many celebrities and influencers who are taking like the social capital gained from pretending like you care about COVID-19, at the same time living a lifestyle that completely disregards safe COVID-19 practices. Like, he wants us to praise him for being just like us, but he also wants to live in a way that we can't even really get away with and would probably wind up taking out half of our family. He's honestly the last person I would have assumed on YouTube that would be some sort of a slime ball, but he's like worse than a slime ball, honestly. A medical professional, not just exhibiting this behavior, but then going on to excuse it. Clearly, he's more of an influencer than a doctor. So people like him are disgusting. People like Tana Mojo are disgusting. James Charles, you're disgusting. Larry, you're disgusting. Fun fact, Noah Beck, you're gross. The Weeknd, Justin Bieber, like people that I really like, I honestly don't care. I have zero tolerance for what you did. It's disgusting. Everyone who woke up and chose their temporary comfort over the safety and life of everyone around them is disgusting. And no amount of apology, genuine, fake, or otherwise, will ever excuse what you did. So COVID-19 has not only been the thing to really drive home that influencers and I guess everyone else live in a completely different world, but it has also, interestingly, been the thing to bring these influencers crashing down back to reality as well. And I find that kind of fascinating, in a way, kind of sad. That's like a super succinct way of wrapping up this video, but unfortunately, that's not like where this story ends for me personally. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to sift through story after story of people behaving this way. Like, I don't think people realize how jarring it is on the fundamental level to see person after person care more about their temporary happiness than other people's lives. For lack of better words, it kind of destroys you on the inside.
Wow, Brandy Joyce.
So sweet, right?
This is the 10th. I apologize. I'm trying to get through this. This is the 10th hospital that I have been in.
Drew, we love you.
Love you too, Hoda.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, a lot more. Sorry. Oh.
I started making this video in November, and it was going to be just like any of the rest of my videos. It was just a normal topic for me. But halfway into it, I was actually informed that both of my grandparents caught COVID-19. Obviously, they're in an age range where they were at risk. It was extremely sudden. It was to the point where it was the same day that they suspected they might have it, to where my grandfather said that he couldn't breathe. So at that point, getting that news, this video didn't just feel like a topic or a point that I could make. All of a sudden, every single point about somebody choosing like a party over the life of my grandparents, basically, it like cut through me. It became impossible to make this video in the state that I was. And it's only here today because I was lucky enough that both my grandfather and my grandmother recovered. Okay, they are fine. I got lucky. They were in a range where they could have died. A lot of people have lost their loved ones to COVID-19, and I did not. So I don't even have the words, or I guess the capability of expressing my remorse for those who have lost their loved ones. That being said, I think there's a lot of people like me who have almost lost a loved one, and it's like, I don't know if people realize that that's traumatic in and of itself. It doesn't make me suddenly okay now that they're still here. That deep cut that was in me when I realized I could potentially have to tell my little siblings who are still children that grandma and grandpa are dead. That like empty and dark realization I had when I realized that my dad might not have parents anymore. I still felt it. So regardless of whether or not people are literally dropping dead from COVID-19, it is still just ravaging everyone's life. And if you can't make a decision, if you can't bring yourself to find enough empathy to understand that this is the reality of millions and millions of people who are indirectly affected by this, in addition to the people who are directly affected, in addition to the people who are dead, if you can't do that, you need to log off of social media. You need to talk to somebody outside of your friend group. You need to do whatever it is you need to do to fix yourself so that you can become somebody who cares.